Perfect. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming on. I realize it's a busy time for everybody, and hope the exams are going well for those students who are writing your exams. As I said earlier, I'm hoping this is a really short presentation just to go through the email details. There are some slight changes, and I'm going to blame my poor mental math. I did a wrong calculation, but I'll tell you what I mean by that. Not significant, but enough for us to just make a little bit of changes. So thank you so much for everybody for coming on. I believe at this point, everybody who's on this call has received a resign offer for next year. And just from the previous town hall, because we had so many variables that were unknown, we had Team Ontario, Team Canada, and then we were doing tryouts at the same time. So I believe everybody on this call has either been a Team Ontario, Team Canada, or have been selected through the tryouts, and now we're at the re-sign stage and providing some information to everyone so that you can make an informed decision. So without further ado, I will go on, and I'll go pretty quickly with the why the change. As I said, we're in a critical 12 to 21 month development window for these athletes. We're looking for a structured, accountable off-season development, and we want to align athlete and coach responsibility. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. So the objectives of this is just to have earlier coach involvement. And in the example I said before, like our coaches were doing such a great job in exit interviews at the end of the year with their athletes. What are you doing this summer? Jason, you're doing strength conditioning, great. You're doing speed work, great. You're doing skill development, great. And then I don't know if I'm coaching them next year, so I don't know what's happening. Like I'm not following. And then, of course, the athlete has no one that they're quote unquote accountable to. So we're looking to change that with this pilot and make the off season an important part of the athlete's development model. And of course, just preparing them for the next level. It's they're on their podium pathway, and they're hopefully headed all to the post-secondary level, where the off season is where all the growth happens physically and this development wise. So that's what we're preparing the athletes for. We want to set clear expectations, accountability, and like I said, better preparation for fall team selection. So benefits to athletes, you'll have a consistent development path. So the coach is going to take you from the off season into the season, then hopefully will take you into next off season. If not, the next coaching staff will take over. They'll have some professional oversight with our strength and conditioning team, and Jason will talk to that. I'm actually super excited about the work that's being done there. And then, of course, we have professional coaches that are going to be doing the off-court, the on-court stuff, improve accountability, and a better pathway to high performance. So as part of our offer to re-sign, we for the first time we have conditions now. So the conditions that we set out there, and I know people are going to put their hand up, well, what about the exceptions? I'll speak about the exceptions later, but this is because it's a pilot, we're setting the bar very high, and we're saying the athlete expectation is that if we re-sign you as a Maverick athlete, whether you be a Team Ontario selection, Team Canada, or through the open June tryout, or sorry, not the open June tryout, the June tryout where the athletes are coming back, we have expectations. We're asking that strength conditioning programs happen twice a week. During that period of time, there'll be strength conditioning testing. We'll have the PSTC technical development sessions that will happen twice a week. We'll have cohort training sessions starting July 19th. Again, very subject to coaches' plans. Like some of them, as an example, I know with our group, the coaching staff and I have already talked about potentially just focusing on setters early in July, and then bringing everybody else in a little bit later. And then the August training camp is where everybody's going to be coming in to prepare for the fall tryout. So those are the expectations that, this is, if you resign, these are the things that you're going to follow and hope to do. So having said that, we heard very loud and clear that we really didn't launch this with a lot of advance notice. Although we thought March was enough, we didn't, and I completely recognize that, and we need to correct this. So we have to build in an exception process. So as we said in the email that preceded this town hall, was if you had any exceptions to these expectations, that you please submit them to us. We received them. I believe to date we received 43 exceptions. Some of them are, vacations and of the sort, but then there's some that have significant exceptions that don't may be missing a big chunk of the summer, and we have to accommodate for that. And so that's our plan to do that. We're reviewing them individually, so please be patient with us. We're looking at them. First, just the process that we're going through is the cohort coaches so for example, I'm going to use my group. Myself and Coach Nicholas are running through the 17U girls that have requested exemptions. We're going to provide a recommendation that yes, we think it's within the acceptable ranges, and that we should grant an exception. And every other cohort head coach is going to have their say and say, yes, that's okay. We agree, and then what that does is that ensures that every athlete that asks for an exception is treated the same and provided the same exception. So that's the reason why. So it's going to be a little slow for us, and we're trying to work through it. It's a lot of information. I was expecting a high number of exceptions, but I wasn't expecting 43. So there'll be a little bit of work for us to do. As I said in the pre-reading, was that we've already identified exceptions that we know that we've already accepted would be acceptable exceptions, being like Team Canada commitments, Team Ontario commitments, especially the ones that are going overseas to Slovenia. Family vacations, obviously, there would be exceptions for that. Camps, prepaid camps, whether it be social camps, whether it be volleyball camps, whatever the case may be, we agree. We just can't ask you to turn around and cancel those. There are mandated recovery periods for the Team Canada and Team Ontario athletes. We accounted for that. And beach commitments, meaning we have some athletes that are actually going to be full-time beach athletes with Team Ontario. They'll be residing in Toronto. We knew about that. And then there are athletes that have signed up for Max Beach Volleyball League, and it's gonna conflict with one of the indoor nights, so we knew about that. So we'll talk about that. And the other big one, and I'm super happy to see, is there are a good number of athletes that have external strength conditioning programs that they said, hey, you know what, we didn't know you're doing this. We went out and are doing our own strength conditioning program, and Jason will speak to that, and there will be a check-in and a testing that will go with that. So that's the exception process that we looked at. So the other big topic that came up was, well, what's going to be the price? Like how are you going to price this? Well, good question. We had to do it as fairly arbitrarily as possible, I guess, if we can say that. So we're unable to price all the variables. Like there's some athletes that are missing 14 days, some that are missing 8 days. I mean, we just can't just work with that. So we went with a percentage. So we're saying full participation is 60% and plus. So if you're going for vacation and you're going to miss a week, you're going to be for lack of a better word, you're going to be a full participant because you're going to be participating for greater than 60% of the time. And then we have what we call the partial participation, which is less than 60%. So the example I use, if you have Team Canada or Team Ontario commitments, you're going to be away for a week of training camp. You're going to be away 10 days in Slovenia, 10 days for training camp, 10 days of competition. So already we know you're going to be missing a lot of days. So then we go to a partial participation. So any questions so far, actually, before I go to that, the next couple of slides? Clear as mud? Okay. Next thing is the PSCC, and I apologize for not putting the dates and times. Dennis, you had a question?
Yeah, I saw the exception process. You said all were due by the 14th.
Correct.
Is that that's the type of exception, or that's each individual exception was due by the 14th, which was yesterday?
Yes. So if I don't know if your son or your daughter was accepted for a re-sign, they had to submit their exception by June 14th.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. And so going to the PSCC, again, my apologies. Like I said, I think in my mind, everybody knows the days, but I admitted it in the email. So I had a bunch of parents message me and wonder where the location was. So the on-court development program runs from June 22nd to August 13th at Franco Cité 4 courts. There's 15 sessions. The girls will run Monday and Wednesday. The boys will run Tuesday and Thursday. Their times will be at between 8 and 9:30. So that does not change week to week. It's built in. So there are going to be those who are in. So now I'll talk about costs. There will be those that are going to miss that can't do it. So if you have an approved exception that I can't make any of these sessions because I have Team Canada, Team Ontario, whatever the case commitments are, there's no price. Obviously, if you can't make any of it, the full commitment is 475 plus HST for those 15 sessions. The partial commitment price is 285, and then payment links. So depending on which category you land in, we'll provide the payment links once they re-sign. So if Jason is at full and Coach Greg is at partial, we'll let you know which link that you are to use for payment. So any questions about the performance, the post-secondary development program? All right. Next is strength and conditioning. So the strength and conditioning will happen June 22nd to December 4th. So it's going to be a little bit longer. It will go into about Labor Day. That's 22 sessions if you go twice a week. There'll be 5 locations, and I want to commend Jason for finding those 5 locations. And there's some locations where I thought there's no way people are going to pick, but there's been a lot of uptake in some of them. So really, really, really glad that Jason was able to work those locations. And in the email, I asked that if you could please submit your preferred days, because those centers have minimums that they want to run, and they want to be able to, if they have to sell the spots or sell the time, that they can do it to outside. So that's been reserved for our club, but Jason will talk more about that. So if you haven't submitted your preferred days and times yet, I believe it was in the email of all the times we had. I've been filling them in as you see them. So the link that you have is a Google form, and if you can actually just maybe double check my work. If you already submitted it, I would have responded back to you. But if I didn't, please have a look and say, hey, my son or my daughter asked for this, and you actually placed them in the wrong slot. So please do that. I'd really appreciate that. If I could have a second set of eyes. So talk about pricing. So if the athlete has no exceptions, they have, they may be away 1 or 2 days here for the summer. They may miss a session or two. The full price will be $575 plus HST. Kenzie, I'll come to you after the slide. Is that okay? Just when the slide's spoken to. Next one is partial at $345 plus HST. So that was the bad math. I think I had it at 300. It's not 300. It's not 60% of 575. External training exceptions. So we know there are athletes that are following their personal trainers elsewhere, but a part of the accountability piece that we want to make sure is that they're going to come in for testing, and unfortunately that testing has a price and a cost. So that is it's going to be $75 plus HST for that testing day or days that they'll have, and there are some that will have full exception because they're just away for the whole summer with national team commitment or whatever the case may be. So they can't complete in the program, but we are going to re-sign them because the fact that they put in the exception and explain to us of that sort. So payment links will be provided to athletes once they resign. So once we have our full list of resigns, we'll be gone through all the exceptions. We will let you know which link that you're to use to pay, and then you can start paying. And then I believe, Jason, if I'm not mistaken, it will start on June 22nd. Is that correct with testing? But I don't want to steal your thunder.
I think so. I'll go over the calendar on my portion though, for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so that's I'm done with my slide. So Kenzie, I apologize for cutting you for not asking your allowing you to answer your question. So ask your question, sorry.
So if a few of us have already started a strength and conditioning program with Titans Performance with a personal trainer and have already been paying for those sessions, does that apply under the exceptions that we were needed to submit, or will one of these links be applicable to us?
Yeah, so you if you're already following a training program, then you would have submitted an exception saying I'm following ABC training. And have you done that? Okay, maybe. So if you haven't done it, please do so, and say that's what you're doing. and then we'll review them. And then in your case, if you're already training with somebody else or anybody who could be training with anybody else, we just ask for the training, the testing fee of $75 for the HST. So we're going to test. We want to make sure that the program is being followed and the athlete is progressing, just like we would for the program, the athletes that are doing full and partial and everything else. So does that answer your question? Yes, no? You're on mute, Kenzie. I don't know if you're talking. Okay, I'm going to take silence as it answered your question. Okay. Are there any other questions about this, what we've gone through? And I don't know, I missed the first page. I wanted to thank the coaches, parents, administration. Like it's our first time doing this, and we know we're gonna get things wrong. But the more this becomes like a culture in our club, I think people will do it better. So thank you so much for your patience. Dennis, you have your hand up.
Yes, thanks, John. Quick one. You just gave the dates of the nights, and I missed it. Could you just repeat that one more time quickly so I can jot it down? Thank you.
Sure. For the on-court stuff. Sure. So
that's
it's
right.
there. So it's June 22nd to August 13th at Franco Cité. Girls are Monday and Wednesday, and the time is 8 to 9:30.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, another burning topic I know that we take a lot of heat on is our strength and conditioning. And so one of the things we did strategically is, I'm not a expert in strength and conditioning by any means. So we felt that we were missing that technical element, and we were missing that strategic piece with the person that that knows and lives strength and conditioning. So we posted for the position. We had some incredible candidates put their name forward, and we were lucky enough that Jason did, and Jason is our club's strategic lead and responsible for strength and conditioning. I don't know what magic wand he was able to pull, but he got 5 facilities together and have our athletes train under the same standards and programming and everything. So he did a fantastic job there. And without further ado, I will give the floor over to Jason. And Jason, do you wanna do your thing?
Well, yeah, I'll share my screen here, John. I had to leave the meeting for a second to update my my settings so I could actually share my screen. So give me 1 second. I think there might be a question in the meantime.
Sure. No. Okay. I will go to the chat here. If you submitted a request for an exception, different location for SAT, do you know it's been accepted, or are you expecting to hear directly? So Elizabeth, I assume that it's your son or daughter is training at, let's say, the ABC gym. They're not doing it at one of the 5 gyms that we've lined up with. Is that correct? I'm going to assume that's the case because that's the way I read it. So yes, if you submitted an exception saying I'm going to train at ABC gym, we're going to review it and we'll provide an exception that it's okay, no problem, continue to train there. Great that you were really glad that you took the initiative and putting the strength conditioning as a priority. But we will ask you to come in for designated training days, testing days. My apologies. Just to monitor your progress. Thank you. All right, Jason. Oh, do you have any more info on the August 21st? Scott Nesbitt do you have any more info on the August 17th to 21st training camps? For example, will be during the day or evenings for, I believe, if Sally Spack is on this call, I believe we have a combination of day and evenings. So it'll be a combination of whatever works best for the coaching staff and the cohort. So the coaches, once we get through this massive tidal wave of resigns, I think the coaches then can start thinking about what we love the most, and that's less administration. Okay, just evenings, Franco Cité forecourt. So we'll get to more of the planning, and then we will go out to the athletes of, hey, we're thinking of the first 2 days we're going to work center middle connection, or the next 3 days we're going to have outside Zoom server pass. Whatever the case may be, it'll be up to the coaches, but they'll give advance notice for those. All right. If there's no other questions, Jason, I'll leave the floor to you. Oh, there's another question. Is it Adusa? Adusa?
Good evening, it's Adeswa.
Adeswa, okay.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. The EDC, my son, I need clarification with the EDC and this post-secondary school activity, because my son, we had earlier registered for the EDC, and then some days back he told me, I saw the email about this post-secondary stuff because he just finished the tryouts.
Yes.
And then he's telling me that he needs to do the post-secondary school thing. So I don't, is the EDC same as the strength and conditioning stuff, or is it different?
No, yeah, so really good question. So first, you haven't lost your money in the EDC. You're going to get refunded money back from the EDC. So if you choose to do the post-secondary development program, what we call the PSDC, in terms of skill development, it's the highest of our camps. EDC is below it. So the PSDC is the highest camp that we offer in terms of skill development and the athletes that are there. So if you already signed up for the EDC, don't worry about it. You'll get your refund. That's for sure, because it's the same club. And once you do is you'll just sign up for the PSTC. If you resign, that's what will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll kick off the strength and conditioning portion. John, thanks for kicking off the meeting here. I'm going to have this kind of full screen, so I probably won't see hands going up or any chat. So, John, if you can just let me know if there's stuff that pops up along the way.
You got it.
And if we could save the majority of questions until the end, it just maybe take a note down. We'll have time at the end because I may cover your question along the way here. So just to do a quick agenda here quickly, I'll try to move through this quickly. There will be a decent amount of text on these slides, and I'm happy to share this presentation with anyone who wants it. But I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you what our vision for strength conditioning is as we move into this new setup here with the Mavs. I'm going to talk about who our partners are and why we chose them, what the athletes can expect, how we're going to monitor, testing, dates, communication reporting, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So just quickly about me, I played for the Mavericks a very long time ago. I don't even know what year, but I'm 55 years old. And Kerry was my coach, and his son Karch was born during one of our practices, actually, and he had to take off. So that's my history of the club. I've been around this club for a very long time, and have always wanted to give back in more ways than one. I was a coach with the club as well, and one of the architects of the original high performance program. I started up the strength conditioning piece and was the sole strength conditioning coach at the volleyball club for a while, and it's expanded into what it's become today, which is a pretty powerful setup for athletes within the club that I really don't see anywhere across Canada. I've been a strength and conditioning coach for 25 years, and my specialty has been around youth athletic development. So I think you can trust that I've done a lot of work in this area, and I know volleyball well, and I know youth athletic development very, very well. So what I'm looking for in an overarching way is, obviously we want to improve the performance of every athlete participating in our programs. That goes for folks involved in strength and conditioning or not. We'd like to reduce their injury risk. I had a career-ending injury with my shoulder when the club didn't have any strength and conditioning. It had nothing to do with the club, so I'm not putting any blame here. But one of my missions as a strength and conditioning coach is to have athletes be able to play as long as they want to and not be forced off the court with an injury that stops them from playing. We want long-term development. We're not looking to make an Olympian out of a 12-year-old, right? We're looking to develop a pathway that works, and we know it works to develop athletes long-term. So we'll continue to apply those principles. And we want club-wide consistency. So we want the club to develop a consistent framework for strength and conditioning, a consistent pathway, and ultimately consistent and really powerful partners to help do this, because the club is growing. One facility just can't handle it all. And the multi-facility setup that we have here that I'm going to talk about allows a lot more flexibility for parents and athletes as well. So the vision is we want stronger, faster, more resilient athletes, again, with consistent club-wide standards, measurable progress. So this goes to our testing piece. And we want you and the athletes and the coaches to have real strong confidence in this process. That's probably one of the biggest pieces that's missing. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm here, is to create the confidence with parents, athletes, and coaches that, yes, this is a very valuable piece of your athlete's development, but you can be very confident it's being done right, being delivered with science-backed information, and is being monitored well by someone who's done it for a very long time. So I've chosen 3 partners with the blessing, of course, of the executive team at the Mavs. Capital Strength, most of you have heard of them. They've been with the club for 11 years. They're going to be the lead testing partner for the athletes. They have a phenomenal athlete monitoring system and lots of volleyball specific expertise. Just high level stuff here. I'll get into a little more detail in a bit. They've got 5 time slots that they've provided for us. Then we have Titan Performance Center. I think the club knows them well also. They've provided us with Monday to Thursday evenings with 16 athletes per session max. So again, these kind of signups are important, that you get signed up as soon as possible so that you get the spot that you want in the location that you want. We've brought on the Fitness Lab this year. Great partner. I know all of these people well. By the way, I have a lot of history with each of these facilities, having been from Ottawa and been in the strength and conditioning space for quite some time. So really good folks over there. But with multiple locations, they've got 3 locations, which also helps us, especially in the regional programs or even the provincial programs where, parents have made the choice that they don't want to travel as much as our national programs. So we can allow that flexibility for travel and make it a little more accessible for everybody to get there and get it done. So again, I want to read off these slides, guys, and waste your time, but Capital, they're awesome folks. They're all certified trainers. We've got a few folks there from that have been involved with the Maverick Volleyball Club as players, and we've got everybody there knows the club very, very well. So they'll be our lead strength and conditioning provider for our national programs. They won't be able to handle all of our national programs, so there'll be some spillover in the fall. I'm going to talk about summer and just touch on fall a little bit here too, but they'll have to overflow some into Titan in the fall. But they're available to book for this summer for anybody who wants to book there, and that location and these times are best for them. They're also going to be our testing facility. So they have some really good high fidelity testing equipment that's used at the professional level and with Volleyball Canada. It's not just kind of Vertex stuff, it's force plates and laser timing gates and other force measurement equipment. So they're going to use that to objectively measure the baseline and then, of course, the results of their summer training. It not only is kind of an accountability piece, but it's going to give us some insight into where they potentially need some work. That's going to help us direct their training so that we can avoid injury and also apply the right training interventions to improve those opportunities, because every athlete's going to be a little bit different, as we know. Titan has been involved with the club already. We know them well. They have an ex-Mav athlete there as well, who most of you likely know, Chris Spack. But they also have some phenomenal trainers on board as well, with lots and lots of experience at multi-levels of sport. They've provided us with a little more evening time slots over the summer. So for those who are looking for that, those time zones, it's probably more convenient over at Titan. They have a little more space as well. With Capital very, very heavy in the hockey space, they're kind of booked up by now. And this is part of the reason doing this early is important for us to get the time slots that we want in the facilities that we want, so that we can make this as easy as possible for the athletes and parents. And then Fitness Lab, again, they have the 3 locations, Canada, Leitrim, and Beach. And they've got some various times that will again be listed on the sign-up sheet that you guys, I'm sure, have seen. I'm not sure exactly what's been sent out, John, but I'm sure that they've seen all the available time slots and or will very shortly, and have the ability to, to sign up for the spots that suit them. So without going into a ton of detail about the programming, I'd like you to be able to trust that I will be looking at every single phase, every single program, every single exercise that's being done at these 3 facilities. And I will be signing off on it before they're implemented. I know these guys very well. They're happy to do that. They're happy to cooperate across with each other, as well as with me. And we're going to deliver a phenomenal program. There's going to be clearly some artistic variety between facilities. I'm not going to ask them to deliver the exact same program, but the principles, the progressions, and the kind of age-specific exercises should be aligned with our philosophies, or my philosophy. So I'll make the decision here on this one. So what athletes can expect, generally in the off season, doesn't matter how old the athlete is. This could be a national team athlete. This could be an Olympic level athlete. This could be a professional athlete. We work on movement quality first. When we're in season, we tend to change our movement to adapt to the sport, which is good for in season, but we want to reestablish full range of motion, natural movement patterns, et cetera. So we want to get everybody moving well before we start adding load to that movement, again, regardless of age or experience. Then we're working on strength development, speed and power, jump performance, both from a strength and power perspective and a technique perspective. And we're always looking for injury prevention. We're monitoring loads so that we can make sure they have the right amount of recovery. And then towards the end of the summer, we get into really volleyball specific stuff to get them dialed in for their season. So age appropriate programming. Obviously, this group is an older group who's post or in late stages of puberty. So we're not super worried about loading them appropriately, but in the fall, again, age appropriate programming, progressive overloads for loading them appropriately, not all but the same amount of weights. Each is going to be very individual, and safe technique. So we're going to be really focused on doing things right. There'll be athlete monitoring across the summer and in the season. Attendance tracking, so they're going to send me attendance tracking on a monthly basis. We'll be able to look at who's attending, who's not. If there's any surprises, these exception reports are going to help us understand when people are going to be away in advance. But if there are any surprises, it'll be reported back to the coaches and then, of course, to the parents, just to make sure, some of these folks are going to drive themselves, I'm sure. So we want the parents to be aware if there's significant absences that maybe you may not be aware of. So that'll be communicated back to coaches and then to parents where appropriate. We're going to have testing done at Capital, as I mentioned. So we'll have one. I'll show you the dates shortly, but slightly after our training starts, and then one at the end of the summer, so that we can then monitor how well they progressed versus each other. We can also, for me, it's important to measure which facility maybe delivered the best results. And we can start to look at, are we making the progress that we would expect from the level of investment, both time and money, across the summer? And is there anything that we need to change? So that's why we're doing that. And then we'll be doing some wellness and injury risk questionnaires. We'll be looking for drops in performance. So this testing, this is going to be more across the season than in the off season, but we're going to measure regularly across the season to make sure if we see significant drops in performance, that is not to be expected outside of the norms. We're going to red flag that to the coaches, and the coaches can have a conversation as well with the parents, of course, about training loads, about other outside stresses that we may not be aware of, so that we can just help the athlete get the best recovery and ultimately avoid injury and perform to the best of their ability. So that's kind of our tracking thing. Here's a little bit on dates. So we're going to start our training session. I've got a better date one in a little bit, actually. You know what? I'm going to skip quickly by this one. So we've had our final tryouts. We're here at the town hall. I think our final selection is probably already done. We're ahead of this. John, you can tell me better, but by June 20th or sooner, we'd love to have our athletes sign up deadline. So everybody signed up for the sessions they're going to be at. If we can do that sooner, that's obviously way, way better for our service providers, because we intend to have our first training session on June 22nd. So that's a pretty tight turnaround for them. So the sooner you guys can get in your selections for your times, the better. Both just for them to be able to prep and know how many athletes they have and prep their space and their trainers and staff up, because we've asked for 3 trainers per 24 group, and then they can scale that down. If we have 18, we're going to have 2 trainers kind of thing. And if there's only a team of 12, we'll also have 2, but one will be likely a coach in training, which is going to be helpful for coach development with our partners as well. So the quicker we can get that done, the better. So we put June 22nd as the first training date, and we put June 28th as the first testing at Capital. We'll get to you guys. I have to work through, once we get numbers and final stuff, we'll work through what time of day we're going to do that. But it'll likely be across the day because there's a lot of athletes to test. So that'll be, we were going to do it on the 23rd, but that's Father's Day, I believe. So we moved it off a week. There's no huge hurry for that one. Just something to add, John?
No, just the June 17th is actually the deadline for the offers expire. Yeah, so that's what the final selection means. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks for clarifying. Again, monthly reporting. This is for parents and coaches. Attendance trends, performance updates. If there's testing updates, any wellness observations, injury risk considerations, training load and readiness guidance. That's the point where if we see, a whole cohort going kind of downhill or sideways, we probably want to have a chat with the coaches and say, okay, well, just give us a sense of what the load outside of the training is looking like, and just get a better understanding of what's going on. Again, this just shows kind of my role is, again, establishing, which we've already done, and maintaining these club-wide standards, making sure that the 3 providers are speaking with each other and coordinating properly and following our guidelines, reviewing progress with the service providers. So I will be doing that regularly, supporting coaches. So, making sure communication, ideally, again, knowing that parents are going to run into to strength and conditioning coaches and team coaches quite often, I would, and you should engage with them. They're nice people and talk to them. But if there's feedback or, positive or negative for that matter, I'd love it to come to me, at least if you've already spoken to the strength and conditioning coach, that's cool. But speak to me as well, because I want to make sure I'm capturing all this stuff and I'm acting on it appropriately, and I can, potentially add some color and context to some of the stuff that they're doing. So just kind of a little quote here, or a little statement, that we're not looking to just make athletes better, right? We want to help every athlete become more resilient, move better. Try to move this thing out of the way so I can read it. Perform at a higher level and stay healthier throughout the season. So I've done a lot of work, as John mentioned, and happy to do so. Couldn't be more happy to be doing this for the Maverick Club that did so much for me, to find us some really outstanding facilities, trainers, people who are really invested in the development of your kids and your athletes. So I'm excited to deliver this fall, or this summer and fall. And please just, there's going to be a little bit of patience required as we kind of scale this up. for the first time. But know that I'm taking it incredibly seriously, and I'll make sure that the quality of this programming is top notch. So we'll pause there for Q&A. John, if that's okay, unless you had anything to add.
Not at all. I'm super excited, Jason, to have you on board. Like I said, I've known you about as long as we've been Maverick. So it's to have you back. And he's very humble. He's done some very incredible things in that space, and very well respected. So I'm glad you came back and want to give back. So I appreciate having you on board.
Thanks, John.
Brent,
I don't mind.
Brent.
I've got the chat open now. I can take a quick look. So Lynn, just a quick question on the scheduling thing. I don't know whether the system, John, you'll be able to answer this better than me. You could do one session a week at one location and one at another. That doesn't, it's not the end of the world for me, because they're all approved vendors. They're all great. I'm not sure if the booking system allows that, but if it does, that might be something we could set up.
Yeah, so we offered the three facilities, for lack of a better word, and Fit Lab is three facilities, but it's the same entity. So we allowed them to pick 2 slots that fit them. So it could be at Titan, it could be at Fit Lab, it could be Capital, it could be Fit Lab, so whatever the case may be. So yeah, as long as you can make your two sessions, that's fantastic, and whatever works for you. I know. I actually just submitted one today. One athlete is working at one because I guess it's probably closer to home, and then they're shifting one to align with PSTC. So it makes sense.
Perfect. No, that's great. Alternate testing day. I think I don't see the full name there, but PM. I'd say that let's get through the testing day. Let's see how many we have left to do. And I don't think that if they're training at Capital, it'll be a lot easier because they'll be there for their workouts and they could just hop on and do the testing quickly. But if we needed to book another day for a large cohort, it would likely be, we'd have to just organize that after the fact. There's nothing currently in the calendar, but we can do that. National athletes at the lab locations for the summer. There's no mandate where they train. For the fall, the preference will be that most of the national programs are at either Capital or Titan, but that will be kind of like everybody's going to train as a team in the fall anyway. So we can speak to the coach if it makes sense for the full team. Then we'll make that work. It's not. Again, it's not make or break for me. Testing sessions from Elizabeth.
Hello, sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you. I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but I can't see the chat. It says you're not a member of the chat. So I don't know if it was closed.
Oh. Well, we have chats going on.
I'll take the verbal. Yeah. We're almost done in the chat anyway, and then I'm happy to chat voice to voice with anyone. Christina, so I'm happy to jump on with you in a second here. But yeah, in terms of how many testing sessions there'll be 2 in the summer, 1 at the start, 1 in the finish, and then there'll be 3 throughout the season. And yes, I'm happy to share the presentation. No problem at all. Nora, you're next on my list.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a few questions. First one, I'm wondering if those times and dates were shared already, because I'm looking through my emails. I'm not sure I have that. If not, I'd be happy to get a copy of the presentation to confirm what the days for each of the strength and conditioning sessions.
Yeah, Nora, they have. If you maybe want to email Paula at maverickvolleyball.ca, and we'll see why you haven't. Like, have you been receiving other information?
I've received some. I'm not finding it in my email, so I'll double check.
Okay.
And I'll with
sure.
my daughter as well. My other question is, I found that the nutrition component is kind of hit and miss depending on the teams. And is there a way to integrate some of that in the strength and training kind of stuff? I don't know if that's a good fit, but I think it would be great to have some kind of nutritional component where the athletes are talked to about if they're going to do all that strength training, what kind of food would kind of complement their strength training. I find sometimes that could be lacking or could be improved a little bit. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. So just putting that out there as a
Yeah, no, it's
wish
an
list.
important piece. You're right, Nora. It's a very important piece of development. I would say that a lot of practitioners, rightly so, are very careful not to step outside of their lanes of expertise. So, I have a lot of knowledge on sports nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't ever claim to be one. I can speak to it very intelligently, but there could be someone who's who's an expert on this call that would call me out on all the stuff I'm saying, and they may disagree with me, and that's okay. But there's certainly messaging going to the kids from all of the trainers, and I will make sure I reinforce this around protein intake has to be very high. Carbohydrate intake, even in season, even though there's a lot of people doing low carb diets and stuff, that is not an athlete centric diet. You don't want to be doing that, especially in season. Or to fuel your workouts. So, we can set some generalized kind of guidelines for macronutrients and stuff, but unless the club is working with a specific nutritionist, which I'm not sure, John, if you have one on board for HP, but it probably wouldn't be something I would ask them to speak to because they're just not certified in that way, even though they can comfortably. But if you wanted to your child specifically wanted to speak to someone about it, I'd certainly be happy to have that conversation. No problem. Probably not the answer you're looking for, but
we do have nutritionists that we can, if the coaches reach out to us, that we can recommend. But I'm with Jason. There's 12 different principles, right, in terms of nutrition. So it's a hard department to navigate. And unless you have a good working relationship with the nutritionist, it's always a touchy subject. It's always been one of those gray areas. But if nutrition is very important to you, please bring it up to your coach. Have them, address the issue, and then I'll be glad to introduce them to a few nutritionists that we've worked with in the past.
My final question, John's for you, is just a point of clarity, just make sure I understand. The PSDC, that's the Monday and Wednesday sessions, right? It's not.
They're on-court sessions, correct?
Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Julie, thanks for your patience. I'll take you next.
Oops, getting there.
Hi.
Oops.
So it's actually Alain.
It's Alain and Julie.
Her husband.
Okay, Alain.
Question regarding strength and conditioning. Besides the two sessions that they'll be doing at one of the facilities, do you recommend them working out more than that during the week? And if so, how much more?
Very fair question. Good question. It would depend on a bunch of different things. For me, I would say, what else are they doing? Are they doing any other sports? Are they, are they doing the volleyball training? I'd want to manage workload across all of these variables just to make sure they have enough time to recover. So what I would suggest, Alain, is have him or her speak to the trainer they're working with. Once they're assigned to a facility, they'll be able to advise them really well on that, and then also offer up, hey, we do have another open group here. It's just a bunch of random athletes your age, and why don't you join that, and we'll get you for another session if it's appropriate.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Christina?
Hi, yes, my apologies if I missed this. Because the offers are due in 2 days, will we get a result for our exemption application before that time to make an informed decision?
Yes, you will. I covered that at the beginning of the presentation. We are aiming to have everything back for tomorrow by lunchtime. So that gives you a day and 4 hours, I think. So 28 hours. So hopefully that will be enough time. But
Great, thanks,
generally, yeah, no problem. Generally, the exceptions for Team Canada, Team Ontario are given. We have agreed to do family vacations, I think, as an exception. Prepaid camps that the athletes have paid for. I think those are the ones out the top of my mind. Oh, the other one is if they are following a strength and conditioning program that's outside of any of our providers, but it's an accredited trainer, no problem at all. They just have to come in for testing. So those are the exceptions that we're going to blanket say yes, no issue. I believe there is another in question in the chat. Jason is So for those who can't read it, it's for the final testing at the end of summer. Will that count towards our fall tryout in September?
Yeah. So the answer is no, and the reason, well, yes and no. I just want to clarify what you're asking. So in terms of the testing done at Capital, that's different testing than testing that was done at the tryouts. So the tryouts testing is, I want to call it analog. It's just done with very basic equipment that makes it a lot more accessible for large groups and gets us, really valuable information that we want to know. The testing being done at Capital is a little more high fidelity. It's being done with kind of force plates, really high fidelity equipment, so we can really see some. We don't only see how high they jump, but we see how much force they produce through each leg, how hard they land, how quickly they can produce force. Lots and lots of really important data that helps us first, decide how to train them properly, and then secondly, how they're improving when we measure that against the next test. But also, we can recognize these little subtle changes in performance or even speed of rate of force production, and we can start to get ahead of, say, there may be something happening here that is under recovered or an injury about to happen, so we can get really ahead of that. So we'll do a 28th, I think is the date was. I don't know in front of me. I got a million things in my head at the moment, but we'll do a pre-summer, early summer testing, a post-summer testing. And then after the tryouts and the teams are picked, so there will be some testing similar to the tryout testing done during the official tryouts in the fall. And then once the teams are fully picked, then they will do a pre-season testing again using the same equipment that we used across the summer. Hope that makes sense. That was a bit of a ramble. Because half the team won't, or some of the team won't have tested. So we'll get everybody tested again. Thanks, Kenzie.
And Nora, I put the strength and conditioning schedule up for you, and for any of those who haven't seen it yet, it's in the chat too. But if you can't see the chat, then unfortunately, it's we'll send it again. John, I just want to confirm that you said that the on-court training for 18U boys is Tuesday and Thursday. Correct. Girls are Monday and Wednesday.
Any other questions? There are no bad questions. I'm happy to take any that you have. The plan also, guys, just so you know, and I'll get to you in 2 secs, Brent, is I'm going to have, my plan is, this might be a surprise to John, so hopefully it's okay, but I'd like to have all of the strength and conditioning providers at, whether it's Mavs Day or something, post kind of tryout and team selection, available for you guys to come and mingle with and talk to and meet and shake their hands and ask questions. So that is the plan. It might be during like a uniform day or something, but we'll find a really good day where you guys can come and pick their brains and ask them whatever you want to ask them. And I tend to be there, or I intend to be there as well. Brent.
Hi, thanks. I actually just have a question, Jason. Well, first off, thanks for the overview. My question is, I think that I heard you say that come fall, that you would be continuing with Capital as well as Titan. Is that confirmed as the plan for the way forward for the teams? And then if I understood that depending on the coach and the team in question, then they would decide which group or which provider to go with? Thanks.
For this, for the group that's on this call, that's correct. We will keep the Fitness Lab involved with the regional programs, just again because of their proximity to folks and the fact that those folks don't want to travel as much, and they've made that decision. But between provincial and national, we hope to get the vast majority into Capital and Titan. Where a coach makes a decision on behalf of the team and in cooperation with the parents, because it just makes sense geographically or schedule-wise, like all good on my end. John, you can speak to it, but I have no issue if that's what works best. We want to make this accessible and workable for you guys as much as anything. So this is part of the reason I brought in so many options and pre-qualified all these folks, just to say, it doesn't matter to me where you go at this point if it's one of our pre-approved providers, but let's decide as a team, make a decision based on, you know, the right inputs, and let's just have a quick chat about it before you go ahead and make sure they have availability, and we'll go from there. But we'll be able to pull for fall. We'll be able to pull more availability, and we'll have another call like this, I'm sure, John, talking about fall scheduling and things like that as well.
Yeah, so if I can give this, I apologize for those who may have lost interest already, but I think this is really important. I know I don't want to say we've heard the concerns about strength and conditioning in our club. Like we have 100% heard. If we were doing it really well, there wouldn't be these like this, you know, people having questions and people having concerns about our strength and conditioning program. We have heard you. Like we totally understand the trepidation, the hesitation, and you're seeing the same service providers come back, and so I get it. I'll just provide. We had an RFP process where we went and looked for strength and conditioning providers. We had we had received a bunch of tenders, a bunch of offers, and one thing that kept coming back is our model is, unfortunately, we tried at the national level to have a workout, whether it be before on-court training or after on-court training, so it doesn't add an extra night onto mom and dad driving or athlete driving or athlete away from school, from their studies, I shouldn't say from school. So we've always been kind of tied into that model where we need something close. And what I mean by that is we looked at, and one of our tender members, I won't name them because I don't want them to be ostracized if it is a bad approach. But that person just laid out a map for us and said, hey, these are your practice facilities, and these are where the tenders came from. Like, these are where the providers came from. We can make a radical change and force everybody to drive 45 minutes, but is that worth the change? Is that worth it? So what we did when we took that advice from the review committee that went through the tenders, we said, what is missing? And I went to another very much trusted friend, Chris Schwartz, who was the former head strength and conditioning coach for the Ottawa Senators and a former Mav, and consulted with him. He goes, you guys are missing a key piece, and that's the strategic lead piece. You need somebody who's the thinker and who's going to be the one that puts together and puts the quality assurance together. And that's the piece that's one of the reasons why Jason is such a critical piece in this. And I think he is going to be responsible for that change. For me, I can give you the numbers, I can give you the logic, but I don't have the knowledge, the intimate knowledge that Jason has, and the credibility that he has in that strength and conditioning committee that will push back to challenge our providers and say, hey, this is not good enough. This is not the standard of which we will. So that's the role that Jason is going to do. So we hope that, we address the concerns. We hope that this year I assure you, we're not going to change overnight. But I know that we have an effort there, and we know that we have somebody that can speak, for lack of a better word, strength and condition ease to these strength and condition ease delivery, these providers that said, no, it's not going to work this way. So that's the role that we have. So if just give us a chance. Give us a chance to change things. Give us a chance to hold them accountable at their feet. And then looking back at the first challenge that I said is that we need proximity to the facilities in which we train at. Unfortunately, we don't have our own facility. We don't have our own weight room. If we did, then this would be a non-issue. We would bring the best trainers in and train at our facility, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So we now have to be at the beckon. Not the beckon, but we have to be at some of the mercy of the providers that we have. So that's, I guess, the background.
And I think that's well put, John, and I'm not trying to steer away from any of that either. But what I find, again, in my history of doing this with many clubs across all of Ontario, including Team Ontario, who I used to be their strength and conditioning coach, is communication solves most problems. Lack of communication is really bad. And understanding, right? Because if you're a parent and walks into a gym and sees some exercises that you just don't think are appropriate for volleyball, whether or not you're educated in this field or not, asking a question versus saying, hey, this doesn't look cool, or this isn't intense enough, or this is whatever. There's a reason for that. These are all professionals. These are all people who have studied kinesiology or taken strength conditioning certifications. They know what they're doing. And we have to have a little bit of trust in them. If it's a personality thing, like that's one thing, but when it comes to program design and stuff, these guys know what they're doing. Again, that doesn't mean I'm just letting them carte blanche go for it, but there's probably a good explanation for anything that you see in any of these facilities because they're top-notch folks. I do want to get to some of these questions here because there's a few. So outside the city, gym membership and no personal trainer, there's not an internal solution for that, Tim and family, but I'd be happy. Like, we can't write programs. I'm sure that they're one of our providers. If you asked Nick, or we could connect you with one of the gyms, whoever you want to be connected to, and one of those trainers would be happy to write a program at a small fee for your son or daughter, and then we can monitor that. That wouldn't be a problem at all. In terms of the intensity of the program, there's a question here: are the strength and conditioning sessions intense? If it's a good idea to do them right before PSTC. So they will be appropriately intense given the segment of the season, right? Early in the off season, they're about recovering and getting back movement patterns, as I mentioned in my presentation. And then they get increasingly more intense as the season approaches. My opinion, again, being a volleyball coach, player, and strength and conditioning coach, so I see this from all sides, is the off season is the development, the physical development priority. So on-court skills, we have lots of time in September to build those until January, until kind of the season really kicks in. I would prioritize off season, but at the same time, you got to prioritize your time as a family. Do you want to take your child to a session that's on a separate night to your on-court stuff? So it's really a choice for you. But I'd say that the top priority, if they go in a little fatigued to their on-court session, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd also say that's a 100% going to happen at university. Almost every practice, they're going to have done some weightlifting before, so or after. It's depending on the time of the season, so not a bad thing to get used to a little bit. This is a long one. I'm just trying to.
So I'll read the next question from Michael here. So apologies that this has been covered. While the monitoring and evaluation of the new program throughout the summer is in part to look at the training components, it also tracks attendance and perhaps attitude, motivation during the on-court sessions, all important things. Accepting the offers a contract in the sense that they will work out, train on court. What are the implications of the decrease in performance or attendance issues? This training is an advantage for the athlete for performance and training, but if there is an issue, could this influence decision-making process and placement in the fall? So really good question. So if the athlete, let's say, has no exceptions, they asked for no exceptions, they said they're going to show up twice a week for PSDC and twice a week for their strength conditioning, and they don't show up for 50% of the time, the club is going to hold the right on August 31st when we review the attendance, we look at all the progress, and we say this athlete missed 50% of the time and they had no reason why, and we can, and we have discussed and we made it very clear at the very beginning that we can rescind the offer. The OVA allows that, and then what the athlete will have to do is say they want to come back to our club, they'll have to try out again in the open tryout, and we'll just, for lack of a better word, just rip up the re-sign, right? Because they didn't live up to their commitment. So yes, it can impact. In terms of the on-court work, the majority of the PSCC, it's actually run by two coaches that are not involved in the in coaching your son or daughter. So it's Colin Walker on the boys' side and Judy Musso coaching on the girls' side. So they have no say, so they won't influence the athlete to train a certain way, or they're just looking for technical development. They want your son or daughter to get better, but they won't know how the athlete works on court. The cohort stuff that's going to happen in July and August will give coaches a little bit of an idea how it is, but I'll tell you now, unless it's glaring that there's an issue of on-court personalities that we don't know about, it'll be very hard for us as coaches to figure that out in the little time we have with them in those sessions. So yes, so attendance-wise, very much so. We will have empirical data, but it'll be harder for us to pick out the, for a lack of a better word, those who aren't great teammates. But I don't think we have any, so that's a good thing. Next question is my daughter.
I answered Diana's question in the chat. It's just around working with an outside provider. It's acceptable. We just want to make that connection with me, Diana, and I'll have a quick chat with their trainer, and happy to firm that up with them. No problem at all. Then I see we'll see an S on-court session on July 1st and August 3rd. I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly that means.
Those are statutory holidays. Those are statutory holidays, Jason. Yeah. So I believe they're not available, but we will confirm. We will confirm those dates. That's a really good question. So we'll get confirmation from our providers and from Franco Cite if they open it up.
And then from Dennis, I see testing dates are listed. I think we had the first one on there as the 28th. I don't have the second one on there at the moment, but we will certainly update that as soon as we lock it in.
And is there more information available at the cohort-based on-court sessions with the information sheet indicated was different for BSCCs? Yes. So coaches will provide that information to the athletes. We're right now just hitting that wave of re-signs and all the exceptions that we're dealing with. The coaches will be in touch very shortly to see what they're going to be doing with with those times, and they'll have more information for you. And
I can answer the cardio question from Michael. So cardio is an important factor in athletic performance and recovery. So I'd say that cardio is always a good thing to do. I don't put a priority on cardio to our service providers. And the reason I don't do that is because it's a very low skill thing. I know it's a high, what do you want to call it? Difficulty potentially, or even like there's a bit of inertia for folks to do cardio. But I want our strength and conditioning providers to be working on the weightlifting principles and the movement quality and the jumping mechanics and all of those things, versus watching an athlete run on a treadmill or do sprints for an hour. That does not minimize the importance of those. So ideally, doing some cardio on their own is a good idea. I wouldn't do long duration cardio. If we think about the sport of volleyball specifically, cardio for me, John, everybody else who's maybe not playing volleyball anymore, you could do all the long duration stuff. It's very good for your heart. It's very good for your longevity. For a volleyball player, it's almost more like a hockey cardio piece, right? Where you've got a hard, intense, minute or so, and then you've got a rest and recovery, then another hard, intense minute or so, then a rest and recovery. So that's the kind of way you want to work on that. You want to be able to go really intense for a minute and recover for a minute. It's kind of interval type of cardio training that would be more volleyball specific. Again, that's with a full volleyball lens on. But general cardio is the more cardiovascular fit you are, the better you recover, and the easier everything is to do. So there's no downside to that as long as it's they're able to recover from it and they're not doing too much of it.
I believe the last chat question is from Fabio. That's for you, Jason.
June 28th testing could be done earlier. We won't be able to do it earlier, Fabio. I'm sorry, but I think I mentioned to another question that was similar. We'll have to kind of just look at the folks who weren't able to be tested and probably set up an alternate day for them later in the summer potentially. It is the logistics behind this is pretty epic, to be honest. So we'll just have to kind of try to figure it out, depending on where they're training. If they're training at Capital, as I mentioned, I think earlier, that'll be easier because they're already there. They can just throw them on the force plates and stuff during a training session one day. If they're training at one of the other locations, we'll have to set up a special testing session with those who missed, which I'll have to work with capital to do. So I don't have a date on that. Let's figure out how many miss, and then we'll go from there.
So Dennis, I think you had a question about the testing dates. Jason will share his deck. I think that the dates are in his deck, his strength and conditioning deck. And then Ev, you had a question for program costs. How many exceptions are required to move into that cost bracket? Or are there multiple brackets? There's two. There's, for lack of, the two paying ones are the full participation, and we determine that if you're going to be there for 60% and more, we consider that full participation. If you're going to be there less than 60% of the time, we consider that partial, and so there is two different pricing. I hope that answers your question. I'll have my deck as well that Paula can send out, and the explanations are going to be there. We wish we could accommodate prorated for everyone, every different scenario, but it just becomes so difficult, especially that we through our registration system just doesn't allow us to do that kind of that many registrations for the same event, right? So
yeah, and Nancy, I'll answer your question in a sec, or I'll take your question. The other piece is around the service providers, right? Because they're setting aside an hour at a cost that they're saying, hey, here's how much we're charging for this hour for this many athletes. So if 20% of the athletes are missing, and we say those folks don't have to pay, then all of a sudden we're cutting the cost of that hour for the facilities, which is very. I just want to say, so you guys know and have some comfortability with this. The pricing in Ottawa is, or at least from our providers, is exceptional. You wouldn't find anything for twice that price in Toronto. So it's really, really good. So trust that we've negotiated really good rates with these guys. So that's why it's like, hey, if you hit 60% and you pay for the full amount, that's still a pretty good price per session if you do the math. So especially given the quality of the facilities and the people you're going to get to work with. Nancy, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I had a question on the on-court sessions. If we were to ever skip like just one session, for example, like I know for me, I'm having my wisdom teeth removed early in the summer, so there's like a recovery period after that. Would you want this to be communicated like to our respective coaches so it doesn't seem like we're just skipping these sessions without like a valid reason?
yeah, obviously there's going to be some situations like as the season as the summer progresses. Just as you would notify your coach if you miss a practice beforehand, I think you would notify. In this case, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part. Are you the athlete or are you a parent?
The athlete.
Okay, so you would notify Judy
Mhm.
that I'm getting my wisdom teeth coach out on this day. I'll miss this session for the operation, and then I'll have 2 recovery days where I can't do anything in fear of ripping my stitches. But I think to understand that as long as it's communicated, and of course you if you want to be extra cautious if you're missing anything, just to include the cohort head coaches. I don't know who they are, but include them into that email as well, so they have record of you being away. Like just a courteous thing to do. With if you were working, you'd let your manager or if you were the boss, you'd let your subordinates know that you're not going to be there, right? So just a good courtesy thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you so much for the.
Hey, John, sorry, there's one more in the chat.
Oh,
Just
is there? Okay.
PSDC sessions cohort specific, or the 17U and 18U altogether?
Good question. So they are. There's 4 courts. I believe each cohort, so 17U and 18U, were given maximum 24 spots. So it'll be 12, 12, 12, and 12 at the maximum. So that's how the split is, and they will be together. They could be together for some things. So for instance, if Coach Judy or Coach Colin is running a center middle thing, maybe 2 courts of center middle will have a 17 and 18U mixed around, and it could be the 2 other courts of left side opposites on the other 2 courts. But yeah, so it would be it will be mixed together, and that you potentially have gameplay with your own cohort or versus the other cohort. But it's going to be mixed because the facility allows us to do that because we have the 4 courts. The older athletes won't mingle with you. The ones that are actually in post-secondary, they've been griping. They're actually on from 9:30 to 11. So be happy that you're younger. So you won't mix with the current post-secondary athletes and the pros that come and train after you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, at least for me. And I'm sure John has some closing remarks, but I'm really excited to be part of this. I hope you can tell. I've got a lot of other things going on, and I have a surgery tomorrow, so I'm not in the best of spirits, but everything's going to be just fine, and super excited to deliver the best program ever for you guys.
Yeah. And for me, just quick closing remarks. Thank you for your time. I know we've kind of piecemeal information. We're trying to deal with it. It's the first time we're doing this, but just know that we are trying to make things better for our club and for our athletes, and so that they can succeed at towards their ultimate goal of being successful at the next level. And that is our, I guess, for lack of a better word, our North Star, and everything we do is for the athletes. And yes, we're going to misstep. We're going to forget things. We're going to not do things right the first time, but we know that everything we do in this organization is for the athletes. So if you can give us that little bit of grace, we'd really appreciate that. Oh, is there another question? Okay. No. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Coaches, do you want to stay on for a little bit? The cohort coaches, maybe Jason, do you want to stick around just in case too there's any specific questions?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.